July 23rd, 2012, Monday. Midas woke up to his phone ringing. He rolled over and answered it promptly. "Good morning. This is your 0700 wake-up call. Are you awake?" said the bot voice. "Yes." "Excellent. Have a great day," the bot said and hung up. The text programmed that one to be a little too cheery in the morning, he thought. He smiled to himself as he thought that was something his mother would have thought. "The Greys!" he thought. Midas jumped out of his bed and opened his door. He looked at the box sitting outside of his door. Quickly, the box was on the bed and he was looking at the clothes inside. The Greys looked like a custom-fit flight suit with the name Midas on the front left in black lettering. In the bottom of the box were 2 pairs of darker gray athletic shoes. Both the shoes and the Greys were made of a material he had never seen before. He grabbed his Greys and started to put the super material to the test. He couldn't rip them with his near-miss hands or cut them with the scissors in the room. He wondered what all the pockets, straps, and extra belt loops were for. Down at breakfast, everyone was wearing Greys and new shoes. "These shoes are really comfy," Midas said to IQ as he sat down at the breakfast table. "You have your inhaler with you?" asked IQ. "Yep, in my right knee pocket." "Can I see it?" asked IQ. Midas handed him the inhaler, then went about getting food. "Dude, these ingredients can cause brain damage in humans. This is strong stuff. How many times do you use this?" IQ demanded. "A few, and I'm a little stronger than a normal human." "Still, don't use it anymore," IQ ordered. "That's why I'm here, to avoid brain damage." Everyone was a little more hurried with breakfast than with dinner. They knew they only had half an hour left before their day began. At 0800 sharp, Miss Hanson stepped briskly into the dining room. Behind her were 5 others. "Listen up. Today you begin your indoctrination week. Indoc week, as we call it, is for special assessment training and instruction in safety systems. The people I have with me are Alpha graduates from previous years. They are here to help assess you and your powers. Follow their instructions as you would mine. When I call your name, come up," she said. They were then broken into 6 groups. Armory, IQ, and Knight were assigned together to a young man who came across as being as smart like them. Port and Aid were both assigned to Miss Hanson. Zoner and Oracle were placed together with another lady. Jack was told to go with a man who had 1 real eye and 1 bot-looking eye. Hollow was then asked to go with a young woman who looked spooky. Finally, Midas was told to go with a young man who introduced himself as Robert. Robert was tall, skinny, and carried a backpack. He asked Midas to walk with him. Midas followed Robert out of the hotel, and the 2 of them started heading out toward the desert. "I hear you had a little incident last night." "Yeah, I just couldn't stop it," Midas said. "Don't sweat it. After today, that won't happen again." Midas' heart jumped and he asked, "How do you know that?" "Same thing happened to me the first few times." Then the shiny part of the desert was in view. "Just nowhere near this big," Robert said, looking at the size of the desert. "You're a transmuter like me?" "I transmute, I fly, and I'm telekinetic," said Robert. "Flying sounds cool. You might be able to fly." "No, I can't. I wasn't able to fly when my powers first showed up, but I was 5. "Wow, I think that would be awesome." Midas couldn't stop himself from looking up and wondering what flying would be like. "Robert is your handle?" "No, that's my name. My handle is Alchemy, but call me Robert." "I thought we were only supposed to use handles." "I'm graduated and I don't really have a secret identity. I'm a superhero full-time. That's all I do." The 2 of them walked into the middle of the steel. Once there, Robert continued up to a protrusion about the size of an orange, which looked like it was a rock before. He reached down with his hand and touched it. In his hand it became soft like a metallic liquid gel. Transmuting is simple. It's like using your imagination. He detached the liquid gel and made it take shape of a square on top of his palm. You just need to master your own imagination. He looked at the gel, then it started to change color. He then handed Midas a perfect square of gold. "Is this real gold?" "I can make fool's gold if you like." Robert then hovered a few feet off of the ground. "Change it into a different metal." "Can't that be dangerous?" "Not learning is far more dangerous. said Robert. Just feel the gold in your hand. Understand it. Imagine it being something else, and then will it to be what you want it to be. Midas took a look at the gold cube. He felt its weight in his hand, saw it shine in the sun, and imagined it being steel. Nothing's happening. That's because you're holding back. Robert thought about what to say. You're afraid of what might happen. It's fine. I'm not in contact with the ground, and you instinctively won't change yourself. Give it a try. Instinctively, I won't hurt myself. You could have told me that first. How do I will it to change? Mental-based powers act on two things, direction and force. Your imagination gives your powers the direction they need. You simply see something as the way you want it. Force is how strong your power is and how much willpower you put behind it. Direction and force get refined with time and practice. Now practice, Robert said, pointing at the gold cube. Midas stared at the gold cube for what seemed like minutes. Nothing's happening. Midas was getting frustrated. Robert smiled, still hovering above the ground. That's why I'm here. Sometimes, not always, it can be difficult to make your power listen to you, like forcing a yawn. You know you can do it, but it's just not quite happening. It's like forgetting someone's name that you know very well. Robert reached into his backpack and pulled out a water bottle. He tossed it to Midas. Have a drink, then sit down. Midas did as he said. Hold the cube with both hands in your lap and try again. Remember, we have all day. Midas stared at the cube. He thought of a dozen different things that might be considered willpower. He tried to mentally communicate with the cube. He tried to stare down the cube. He even pleaded with the cube, but it wouldn't change. After a while, he just focused on the cube and wanted this test to be over. Somewhere during this time, he regarded the cube and just plain wanted it to change. I'm not giving it direction, he thought, and then calmed his mind and just plain wanted it to be steel. You did it! Yelled Robert. Midas couldn't believe it. The cube was now steel. I did it! Toss it to me, said Robert. Midas tossed him the steel cube. Robert caught the cube and tossed it back to him almost immediately. Midas caught the cube and looked at it. Again it was gold. Change it back, then toss it back, Robert said, smiling. After about an hour of this game, Midas could change it back to steel instantly and toss it back. After a few more minutes of playing Transmutation Hot Potato, Robert finally kept the cube. Now, I turn it into steel and you turn it into gold. He then tossed the steel cube back to Midas. Are you sure I can do this? I read your file. You turned something into steel because you were thinking of something steel. That was the direction. The force was just your power waking up. How do I keep my power from waking up again? Your ability is awake, never to sleep again. You're not using it as unnatural, like trying not to eat or breathe. You have to understand your power is like your arms, your legs, or your eyes. It's an important part of you that can't be ignored. It has to be used and developed. Once it's developed, it's totally in line with the rest of you, and the episodes like the one you had at the high school won't happen again. Midas felt a lot better hearing that. Then I won't need to carry an inhaler anymore. After today, and provided you keep training, I'll doubt you'll ever need it again. Now quit stalling and make me some gold.